Hello and welcome to Euphoria. This is the episode for finals week. We just witnessed round 2 of playoffs, 3 back-to-back incredible best of fives. I'm Drakos, joined by Froskurinn. You can find us on the internet, Twitter, at Daniel Drakos or at Froskurinn. There's also an Instagram there, but you guys can find that for yourself. It's like all linked together. We're going to be talking about a lot of stuff today, and we are available, of course, on YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes / Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. So depending on where you're listening, always recommend YouTube though, because there's occasionally some great video gags, but really wherever you're cozy and comfortable. And anyway, Frosco, let's just jump into it. We've also got Perkz coming in later as a heads up, but before we get to Perkz, we can talk a little bit. I'm over caffeinated, if you can't tell. It's all kicked in now. Well, this is the part we're recording last, and I'm officially cracked out. Last week in the LEC, 3 different series happened. They were all great. But we're going to do them in the order that is the most entertaining, which is Mad Schalke. Then we'll talk about Rogue Mad. And then we'll talk about Fnatic G2 before we bring our boy Perkz on the show.
It feels like such a lifetime ago that Mad Schalke happened.
I forgot that Schalke got eliminated last week. That's how much of a tour this last weekend was.
Oh, wow.
But let's start with that series. That was... With that, we cast that, which I also forgot until this exact moment. So that might tell you exactly how...
Listen, it's been a whirlwind.
It's been a whirlwind.
I distinctly remember while casting it that Gilius was over-forcing.
Yep.
That I wish that there were times when he would have pivoted towards the Kazakhs that I think he hovered, and instead he stayed on the Lee Sin, which respect the confidence, but...
after the first game, you're like, what are you doing, buddy?
Yeah. I think that... What also happened? Mad changed up their strategy. Oh, Shadow on Lilia.
Shadow on Lilia was the big breakthrough, right?
Was really popping off and showcasing there. You also had individual performers stepping back up. Odawamne on not game 5, his last game, Kennen, where he was just trying his little hardest to pull it together. Abadage playing his heart out on that Orianna for the final hold. And I think I said it best on broadcast, but I'll say it here again. While the world will not get to see the miracle that was the Schalke run, Europe did. And while it will always feel bad, like that is a fiddlesticks and feel bad moment for the players, I am very proud of them. I really enjoyed casting and watching them, and they completely shattered my perception of and it's funny because I talk about this at the end of the episode, even though I anyway, the perception of what ceiling is. People thought that they knew who Gilius was, what Gilius was capable of, and Schalke, with an asterisk next to it for the COVID situation, threw all of that out the window and said, no, this is the new version of us. So I think it was amazing, and it's just unfortunate the world doesn't get to see it, but we see you, Schalke.
Yeah, shout out to the entire team, really. Odawamne, I think, is the big one that I want to highlight. That man, nothing but respect for Odawamne and his tenacity to stay consistently at the top end of top laners. I don't think he's ever been worse than top 5.
I put Odawamne on my All-Pro. I think I put him second, actually. I put him second, and I put Wonder third, which now, because I thought about it, it was who are the best top laners right now. I think I should have put Odo behind Wonder. I think Wonder is exceptionally good, but I thought Odo was really underrated for a long time. Even in the games that Schalke were losing, I still thought that Odo was playing really well, and I think he had hard carry potential, especially on picks like his Shen.
Yeah, Odo was incredible. Abadage also cutting the feeder out. I hope that that's my big hope for this team, is that because we've been here before with Schalke where they do really good in summer, and then next year coming into spring we're like, oh, this is their time, and then it just all collapses. So I'm hoping, obviously roster changes can come through, but I'm hoping we get to see this same Abadage consistently, because having a really competitive pool in any role makes every game exciting. Even if it's just mid laners, or, well, probably not AD carries because this meta is kind of boring as hell. But top laners, junglers, the more competition you have in even just one single role, if we can get a year where we have 8 out of 10 mid laners are nuts, every game will bang. Every game will be insane, because mid lane is just obviously such a hugely crucial role. And that's super exciting. That said, Mad, obviously the much better team on the day. Shadow was a monster in that series. And then what's sad is that the Rogue versus Mad series was the Rogue series was a hot mess from Mad Lions. That to me, and I'm going to say this, and I don't like using this word because I think that it inspires the wrong things. But in this case, I think it's merciful to say that Shadow choked in that series. Because if that was him playing at peak level, Shadow's bad. But I just think that he was not ready for what Rogue threw at him. And it was very clear. He was over-forcing. the Nidalee game was abysmal, and he did a really good job clawing his way back as much as he could. But then he was like jumping over the wall for Krug camps and getting one tapped. Like it was so hard to watch, and it's not all his fault. But like Shadow is the one that obviously like did so much in that first series. So to see him kind of instantly just be obliterated by Inspired was such a shock to me.
But also, I mean, so also think about format then. Mad Lions face Schalke a day. And then they face Rogue.
Oh, yeah, true.
And Rogue have been throwing the same punch every single time. And you probably prepare, and this is all assumption. For all I know, they could have scrimmed exclusively Rogue.
Mad did tweet, not Mad, Mac, I think tweeted out that like, hey, we like slept on Rogue a little bit and we didn't maybe give them as much.
Well, because again, you think that your preparation that you've always had for Rogue will work because they always do the same thing, and then they completely change up the style. The picks were vastly different. Larson pulling out the Lucian, which empowered Inspired to bring out his Evelyn, which apparently he's a big Eve player. And then you also haven't shored up any of the issues that Mad Lions had from their Schalke series, and I think that's where you get a case where someone gets blown away. You know, maybe if Mad Lions get more preparation, more runway time, maybe if they had another run at that best of 5, it wouldn't turn out like this. But I'm not blaming format at all, but I do think like circumstance is really important there. And I think it always goes back to, here's the really nice thing. People who shit talk Rogue, where you at?
I mean, to be fair, I was one of them. This blew me away. I did not expect shit from Rogue, and this series was really insane from them. The fact that they like 180'd their style, my hope is, and this is a big dream for Rogue, but my hope for them that would like give me a lot more faith for them in the G2 series is that they can do both things now. That it's not just like we have to pick one thing at a time and practice this one thing, but more of a versatility thing. If that comes through, damn, like Rogue are really scary.
But here's the thing, like I don't think that they 180'd their style. I think that you can say that about that, but the thing is they changed picks in their jungle and their mid lane position, which changes how you play the game because it vastly changes your win conditions. And if that's how you're defining changing the style, then I guess that works. But for me, I'm like, what is the core play style of Rogue? Well, it's usually Larson carrying with his best buddy Inspired. And then you have Vander and Han Sama, who are a solid bot lane that play really well in waves. And then you have a weak side top laner, as the joke goes for Finn, unless he gets to pop off on his Kled. And this was still the same. Like, the champions changed, which changed the win conditions. So the game played out very differently than you traditionally see a Rogue game, but the core identity of Inspired pulling out a carry jungler like his former Olaf, but now in an AP form in Evelyn, and Larson still being Wonder Boy Larson was still really true to its identity.
True. I mean, very valid. And I think one thing that's important to remember for Mad Lions is like we go through is that they're still qualified to Worlds. So if don't count them out yet, and I think still send them a lot of your support. Because also it's important to remember like the Mad staff were very adamant about being like, guys, we are still a young rookie team. Do not expect so much from us. And obviously I was like, screw that, you guys are sick. Like, let's go. You guys are popping off first half of the season. Like I was really excited to watch it. I think a lot of people were, but still remember that this is an incredibly young team. And Rogue is also young, but they have the veterancy of two of the most established players in the league right now in Han Sama and Vander, whereas Humanoid is really the only member with a significant amount of experience, and even then, by comparison to Han Sama and Vander, is so much younger. So if there was ever a team that was going to struggle coming back in a best of 5, it was probably Mad Lions, even if we did see them go the full 5 against G2 previously.
And I think sending Mad Lions to play-ins, like I can't think of a better team to send there in terms of growth. Like, but it goes one of two directions. Either you send Mad Lions through play-ins, and then we assume that they'll eventually climb to group stage. And they learn so much, it completely revolutionizes them as a team. Then suddenly they change from that rookie squad into like a contender every single time. Or you send a team, especially in this situation, for a very extended period of time into quarantine, into a very intense schedule where they're not really allowed to go outside. We're in a bubble system, things like that. And you absolutely break this team because the burnout is very real and they don't have the experience, as Perkz talks about in his interview, to really prepare for that. And so this is the situation that I have. I have all faith that the Mad Lions coaching team will help turn that or provide like clear direction to avoid that, and will really make use of the new scrim partners and scrim time that they get by going into play-ins. But it is also a concern and a very real human issue that we don't really get to talk about, of you have these very young guys who have probably never been in a situation like that before. Like, this is their first Worlds for a lot of them. And on top of that, it's the first Worlds during a COVID situation where they're basically on lockdown. And that can be really intense and really draining for what has been a very long year.
Yeah, like, this is the thing that I hate. Oh my god, how do I describe this world? If you've ever played a fighting game and you've played against someone who plays a low-tier character, it's the most infuriating thing on the face of the planet. Because if you win, you beat a guy who plays a low-tier character. But if you lose, you lost to the low-tier character, right? And so I feel like World isn't quite a one-to-one situation with that, but it's always going to have this asterisk next to it, so that if Europe wins Worlds this year, let's say, I mean, it does feel still like a difficult task, but Europe wins Worlds, it'll be, well, we won in the COVID year. And like, that's going to suck. But if we lose, we lost in the COVID year. So it's kind of just like both effects kind of feel diminished, but I hate that because I really want it to feel like the full thing.
I think the best thing that we can get out of here is that if we go to Worlds and there's just like competition everywhere, that people are close, that LCK, LPL, LEC, I'll even throw a bone, LCS are just competitive and the games are swinging back and forth wildly. It's such a shame that Vietnam won't be there.
Yep. Very good for G2, but very bad for
yeah, I know G2 is like, yes, now we only have to worry about China. But I just hope that the series are competitive.
Yep. Agree. I think that's the most that we can hope for, and I hope that obviously, like, it's a big thing to be quarantined. We don't fully know what the setups are going to be like. We don't really have all that information, but it would be difficult for me, and that's really the perspective that I can have. And we would not make it. That's what I will say. We are not the kind of people that can be left alone to our own devices for 14 days.
I mean, I would go in with like Ghost of Tsushima, Final Fantasy remake. Maybe I grab a Spider-Man, and then like 72 hours later, I'm like, what now?
Yeah, you're like, okay, so I'm bored of this, and you like cycle between all the things. You're like, I don't know. Maybe that's when you just learn Mandarin.
I'm trying to remember what I did in quarantine. I tried to learn how to cook. I did get significantly better at that.
Making. Yeah. Lots of sadness.
I think I went through Netflix's entire catalog.
True. That's good. I intermittent fast, which meant I lost a lot of weight, which was nice, which is rare. Most people gain weight in quarantine, so I felt good about that. Anyway, wait, we have one more series to talk about. By the way, at the end of the show, we're doing a new segment where we talk about nothing related to LEC. It's called Chill Corner. Check it out if you're interested. But Perkz is coming up. We have a few minutes before he gets here, and I want to talk about Fnatic versus G2. Why was that so hard to come out of my brain?
Because Fnatic won, and people are still shocked about it.
It is still shocking. It's great, though. From a script perspective, shout out to the powers that be. We don't write the script, but if you believe in any great cosmic entity, know that they are banging script writers because this is dope. We now have, once again, a Fnatic and Winners, but a Fnatic and Winners, unlike last time, who actually knocked G2 down. So potential setup for the craziest finals of all time.
Hopefully. That's the dream.
That is the dream. For the narrative, at least. For the Legacy Kings dynasties, we want that Fnatic G2
Even if
back.
Rogue go through, it would be Rogue beating G2 in a best of 5, a team that they've never beaten, as well as then to crown themselves the LEC champions, they get to slay both kings.
Wait, and okay, so that's the thing.
So even the Rogue storylines,
it is hype. Good. But this is the thing. Rogue fans and Rogue, if you're listening to this, I am absolutely willing to believe in you, but I swear to God, if you beat G2, you have to beat Fnatic. Otherwise, the story's crap. It's a crap story.
If you beat G2 and then get 3-0'd by Fnatic, you're done.
I will be furious. I will be more than upset. If you could just beat them both in whatever score, in whatever fashion, I don't care. If they have to run into you to make it happen, that's a story. I would pay for that movie. Give it an Oscar, give it an Emmy, whatever format you want to reward, you want to give it to. Give it a Grammy. I don't care. It could be a musical number. Like, I'm about it. Like, that's a dope story. But please, if you're going to beat G2, you also have to beat Fnatic. That said, the Fnatic vs. G2 series was a really interesting one because it was one of like an evolving draft over the course of the series. It was one where both teams made some questionable decisions in draft. Both teams made a lot of questionable decisions on the Rift. And while it was, at the end of the day, an absolute banger, it felt like it was not the best version of both teams that I think we saw in the Rift that day.
That's an interesting statement.
Because like that cast, I'm mostly like when I talk about that, like that cast pick in Game 4 felt like it was out of nowhere. Obviously, the G2 throw in Game 3 is the big thing that people will talk about.
I don't disagree that wasn't the best form of G2 that we saw. First of all, I'll say it like this. I think that in Game 1 particularly, in G2 versus Fnatic, it was both teams playing well for majority of it and one team playing better. Like you could see situations where G2 were like, we cannot contest the dragon. We're going to trade dragon priority for getting vision on top side or clearing out vision on top side so we can deny the Baron setup. And they just didn't expect the pick power of Ashe because it was like arrow after arrow. Now, there were still mistakes. Teleporting top lane to the tower, massive mistake. Wonder getting caught out bottom by 20 forms of CC. But like it's situations like that where people were like, wow, that hit me a lot harder than I thought it was going to hit me. Kind of felt like the motto for that. But that otherwise, I was like, the decision making seems sound here. As the series went on, it was a little bit more back and forth. I think then quickly swapping to recognizing how powerful Ashe was like the best case scenario for G2. And I think the drafts got significantly better. I think Nemesis still unlocking Selfmade on his AP junglers. Selfmade's Gragas, I think, is the cleanest shit I've ever seen.
Bro, when he killed Caps, when he just like looked at the fake clone, he's like, nah, bam, and like without even looking at him, throws the cast in the direction. I was like, oh my god, that's a Bamf moment right there.
It is just
That's a big Bamf moment.
Such an incredible Gragas player. It is amazing to watch. So from like that perspective, I'm like, wow, this is probably the best form of Fnatic individually and team-wise. Like Hilly was making for most of the series.
That's what I'm saying. Like there were hiccups, but you're right that for the most part, this was the best version of Fnatic.
Yeah, like this is the best version of Fnatic that we've seen. But and maybe, I don't know. People will say that, again, I'm being biased, but I don't feel that that was the best version of G2 that we've seen. It still was G2 playing well and Fnatic playing better. Like Fnatic deserved the win.
Absolutely.
But I want one where it is... I want the game 5 or the series from last year that we had that went to all 5 games where it felt like both teams were playing at the ceilings that they had showed. That doesn't necessarily mean that it was the greatest League of Legends that you've ever seen there, but you at least know that no one was having like just a random weird off day and running it down in draft.
Yeah. I think the big moment that kind of soured it for me was the game 3 where it felt like G2 threw it away. I heard an interview with Hilly where he felt like Fnatic kind of baited them into it, which is a cool perspective and I think makes me less kind of sad about that ending. Still obviously very hype.
We always say the mantra of like, yeah, someone throws, but someone has to catch.
Yeah, exactly. It's always perspective. Every outplay is also a misplay from someone else, arguably. Which is just kind of, glass half full, glass half empty. Depends on how you look at it. But that's enough from our perspective. Why don't we just ask the man himself? We've got Perkz standing by, so we'll check in with him and see how he felt about that series. All right, it is my distinct pleasure to welcome to the show none other than 80 carry, mid laner, League of Legends player extraordinaire, one of the all-time greats, Luka Perkovic, aka Perkz. Hi, welcome, Perkz. Thank you for waking up so early to be here. I know this is definitely not peak gamer hours, so thank you for making the sacrifice.
We were actually told by Yankos, though, when we interviewed him, that you and Yankos actually get up pretty early on the team.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I do actually usually wake up around this time. Like around 10:30, I guess. So it's like not that early for me. But thank you guys for having me. I'm very happy to be here with you guys. And let's get into it, guys.
Let's jump right into it then. Luka, I'm gonna keep this first question simple. What happened versus Fnatic? You got to break it down for me. Like, what happened here?
You want me to break it down?
Yeah, I mean, because like people are definitely going to want to know the most about Game 3, but you tell me what's most interesting from your perspective. What's most interesting from the G2 side?
Well, the most interesting thing is the fact that I feel like we were like choking a little bit. Looking at watching our games, we were making like some mistakes where I felt like they were just kind of obvious, but that's how I guess it goes on stage sometimes when in official matches, when you're just like too much into it and then your judgment is clouded. But I think in general, like if you want like a really simple breakdown, I think game 1 we got really outdrafted. Game 3 we got hard through. And in game 5, we just turbo entered, so we actually just lost it. But game 2 and 4, we kind of smashed them, so that was like nice, I guess.
Yeah, when I
But
when I
yeah,
when I look at it, you talk kind of about those mistakes that you made, I guess like heat of the moment, pressure's on. Do you have any examples that you think of, like any really big plays outside of the game 3 Nexus push, which I think everyone could look at, but like are there any other moments that really stick out to you where you know that you guys kind of made the wrong call or maybe too caught up in the moment?
I think just like small things, like the way we retake, and like when we choose to retake or when we don't choose to retake, or the way we sometimes move with our support jungler. Like once sometimes we choose to go through bot instead of mid, and it's also like our support health in game 3 was like really bad. I think it was game 3, maybe game 2. I don't know. One of the games, like our swap, like I remember I was like 15-6 up on lane with Senna,
Mm.
and then we choose to swap, and I lose 2 waves bot and 2 plates. So we actually lose out on the swap much more than we even gained later on, which is like horrible. So that's something that I don't think we should be doing, this kind of mistakes, which is something we did. So, but other than that, I actually don't think we played like that bad in general. Just like some of those mistakes were like, I felt like when we were like, even let's say game 3 that we won, oh, sorry, game 2 that we won, I felt like the game was just like fanatic inting into us the whole time. Like if I just rewatched the game like yesterday, they were just like running into us the whole time. So it didn't even feel like we played that great that game, but it made us look really insane. And I think game 4 is the one game we played really really good.
I like
I
that you
think
bring up
game 4 will for sure
game
win this
two
game.
because there's this great clip in the mic check this week that is, hey guys, there's no way Reckless just walks into me and ints Wonders playing Jace mid, and then he's and then he does that. Reckless
Yeah, I
actually
mean
just walks into
we're
Jace
like
and gets one tapped.
we were like doing Nash, so Jace kind of like outplayed him because he was doing midwave. Like Regina was doing midwave, so he expected everyone to be at Nash, and then Wunder flanked him. But that was like Chance kind of like a useless skill. It was just kind of one for to show off. Like that kill didn't give us anything actually, so it was just yeah,
In terms
it
of
was kind of nice.
the first game, I know Grabs also went on Twitter and was basically like game 1 was on me, and you just kind of talked about draft, and draft is usually where people will start when they try to break down like a series about what happened. You guys definitely pivoted on your priority for Ashe. You banned her, and then were picking her a lot more in the back half. So Reckless only got her hand on it once. Do you think that the game 1 was just about like not really respecting the Ashe? Do you think it had something to do with the support matchup? Mickey went on to the Braum. I was also curious. Do you guys think that Braum is like a good answer into Ashe?
I think it was more about like our jungle support picks. Like I still think Senna is fine champ, but you have to like play her as a strong snack champion. Like she has to be played around because she's just a support. So if you are playing catch up with her, you will fall behind and you will be kind of useless. And she has a good laning phase, so she should allow you to do it in theory.
So is it about taking
But
the Braum to empower Lilia to gank your lane?
I mean, I think Braum is just useless. We should like probably pick Leona or something to make this game more draftable. And also hacker him into Lilia seems just like a really good matchup as well. Uh, so I think those two are the issues. And yeah,
So when you look
that's
at you,
pretty much it.
when you, sorry, Luca, we keep like cutting you off.
Jungle support
No,
picks
it's okay.
useless.
When you
Yeah,
when you
that's
look
true.
at your prep for this week, what like was Ashe stronger than you expected her to be? Because like Frost said, you started to ban it away. Like how much of what you prepped in scrims do you feel like actually came true in this best of 5? Because it seems like game 1 was so completely different in terms of draft strategy than the rest of the games for the series. So was this just a week where maybe the data or the info that you got in scrims was just maybe not as good as it has been in previous weeks, where like because this Gnar pick to me kind of came out of nowhere. There's like a lot of picks that kind of, I guess, caught me off guard. Akali obviously is one of those picks that we've heard has been really good, but didn't really show up in this series. So how much of this was you guys experimenting in game 1 versus maybe like the prep that you had for the week not being as good maybe as you thought it was?
I think it was a little bit of prep not being as good. Like I feel like uh, as we saw from Rogue and also from LPL and LCK teams, like a lot of those teams play farming junglers and with different style, where we are the team who traditionally just plays Jankos for its lanes, and he's like the best. Like he was the best dog jungler for us because he's so smart, so he does so well to play around us. But if the meta like shifts a bit, we have to adapt as players, and that's something we didn't like all do. So I think it's something that we are really like we started doing a bit last week, but we didn't like really think it was gonna be that huge, I guess. Now we are starting to be able to play both styles, which is just really good for Worlds as well, because a lot of people will play this style of Worlds, and if the meta shifts back to early game junglers, we will always be good at that. I think that will never go away from us. So I think it's just important that we can play both styles. And regarding to like Senna Ashe, I mean, I think like Senna Ashe is kind of like a dog champ at this point. Honestly, it's like kind of like a Cho'Gath of top lane or something, what we said before. I don't really like her that much. I will play her if it's good situation. I will not like. I don't have like champion problems like mentally like that. I will play her if I think she's good, but I just don't like her, and that's gonna stay like that. I think Ashe is really OP. As we could see in game 4 and 5, I was giga smurfing on her, so I think it just fits me more to play a champion that is strong and has damage and initiation than a champion that is just a support. So yeah, I think that's something that if we played Ashe more games, we would have probably won the series easier because I would just carry games with it. And that's it, yeah.
In terms of going back and like watching the VODs, like you had, I felt a really strong series for majority of it. And usually when G2 lose, it's because individual members are underperforming, and it felt like in this series, while there were some instances of kind of question marks, it's like you were saying that there was just some weird decisions made from a team, that it was like a team effort that you guys just kind of made the wrong call, which is usually also not how we see G2 lose. It's usually someone just has like a turbo int moment and then everything gets spiraled out of control and then you guys fight as hard as possible to keep it back in. In losing this series in the way that you guys did, where it should have been a one series you guys threw, do you feel that this like, did this shake you guys mentally at all? Or are you guys like, okay, well, that was a bad day of League of Legends and run it back? Like, does G2 still retain a lot of that confidence? Because right now in talking to you, there's more of that, you know, we're not playing very well again. We'll figure it out. I think we need to reread the meta. Some players didn't change as much, like, as opposed to the happy-go-lucky G2 of like, better luck next time playing from loser's bracket.
No, I mean, I think I'm just being kind of like very real, I guess. But I think we are still like really good atmosphere and a really good mentality, and we have a lot of fun. And like all this is like still there. It's just like when you've been a team for together for so long, you kind of just want to play perfect, I guess. And that's like where maybe my issue sometimes comes from. I mean, though much less than previous years. I think that like every one of us is like good enough to not do the individual mistakes. That's why I don't really talk about them. Like, for example, I was recalling once, like after I cleared a minion, 2 seconds after I recalled and I stopped my base and they killed me. And there was just like some deaths where we just kind of entered, right? So that it is like that. But then again, on top of that, if our macro is always good, like if we retake when we are supposed to retake and we go where we're supposed to go, then those ints are very much less likely to happen as well. And that's why I talk about like our decision making and not like our ints, I guess. And regarding that, if I play good, yeah, I think that I am like really good right now. So that I think if I play good, we will win, which makes sense, right? So if I have like Ashe and I'm playing good game, I think we should win. That's why I thought we should win game 5, because I was having like a really good game against like a really hard comp to play. But I think if anything, I got like a lot of confidence from the series about my Ashe, because it wasn't like that high unit in scrims. So, and after I played her, I'm thinking that, yeah, I'm really happy if I can get my hands on her again.
Obviously, you had a great, I thought you had a great performance throughout the series, Senna and Ashe. You talked about how Senna, you feel like she's like a dog champion, whereas your Ashe is really strong. Is there another AD carry kind of like currently in the meta that you feel that you have agency on, that you can hard carry if you're denied the Ashe? Like, will you go for the Lucian? Will you go for the Jhin? Is there something else that hasn't appeared in the meta yet that you don't have to reveal, but like, do you have an answer where you're not just put on utility or you're denied the carry of Ashe?
I think I have like a few champs, but it's like I don't think anything is like as high agency as, let's say, Caitlyn, Kalista, or Ashe give you. But then again, if teams have to ban 3 AD carries against us, I will gladly take those And if not, I'm very happy to play either one of them when it's open, because they're all pretty broken right now, even though nobody else in Europe plays Kalista. Actually, not many people over the world actually play Kalista. There is only like Ruler really plays her, and maybe some other LCK AD. But so I'm just really happy in this meta actually right now. I think AD carry is really, really broken right now. I hope.
Oh no, sorry. Continue, Luca.
I just hope it stays like this during roles where AD carry is like kind of strong. So it will be nice to have like more options to play, because let's say even if teams ban 3 ADs, I feel like I'm still like pretty happy playing Senna in those situations, right? And I can play Jhin, and I can play some cheese options that I'm practicing in solo right now. I will not really reveal them, but we might see some buttons being brought back.
Oh shit!
Some spicy takes.
Oh, I'm so ready. I need to know. I'll wait until Worlds when it's not a conflict of
interest. Slip into the DMs.
I will mad slip into this DM once Worlds comes around.
I don't know how much you watch of LCS, but what I find really interesting is the conversation in LCS right now is about carrying from the top side of the map. Like, obviously you have things like Camille running around, and Shin is very powerful, whereas in talking to G2 and now Luca right now talking about like carrying from the bot side and how like overpowered and broken Ashe is, that Kalista is still very valuable, that you have champions like Caitlyn which are perma-banned, but people seem to see like Ashe and Senna and just assume that it's like utility bot lane, and so you have to carry from like elsewhere on the map. Like, Luca, can you walk me through how you view the bot lane meta? Like, is it still hard gank bot lane can carry, or do you think that you guys are put from like, I'm just here to right click on people and to take towers, and this is really about like my jungle support doing everything for me?
No, I mean, I think it's for sure not as like last year where Xayah, Kai'Sa were like just really OP and you had to fight on lanes all the time. I think right now it seems very hard to kill on lane because both supports most likely use exhaust, and AD carry matchups are like fairly like strong lane AD carries, so it's like hard to punish them that much, I think. So I think definitely like it's you can play both styles, where you play towards top and where you play towards bot. But I do feel like that you can play towards top and you can play Ashe, basically like. But even though you're playing towards top, if you're playing Ashe, you can still be very, very useful in the game, just because I think the champion is just that strong, and you have really good scaling. You're really strong on 2 items. You have strong landing phase. So even if you just make one player on bot, it can already be good enough for the Ashe team to get advantage. And also, not to mention, if you use your E smartly, it's probably like the most OP ability in the game from like the QWE abilities. You just get like free vision of enemy jungle for the whole game. what else do you even want? Like, the fuck is that, you know?
Where are you on the Bork Ashe versus Essence Reaver Ashe? Because we started to see more of the Essence Reaver coming out. Do you think it's like dependent on situation, or do you have one that you
dependent on situation? Yeah.
Wait.
I think game 5 I should have built Essence Reaver. I up because they're like squishes, and if I have more arrows, like Gragas with no mercs, he might just like die more often. And game 4 when I build Blade, I should definitely build Blade in that game, because they're like a lot of melee champs that want to win. So it makes sense. But I think game 5 I just wasn't, even when I literally when I bought my item, I thought, oh, I guess I should have maybe done Essence Reaver this game. But it's not like a huge mistake. It's like still fine because you scale well with that build as well. But if I did have Essence Reaver at the game, I would scale it better against those champs, for example.
Makes a lot of sense. I'm curious in general. Like, you talk a lot about bot lane meta, and I'm actually surprised to hear you talk about bot lane as positively as you are, because like I look at like this year of bot lane to me has been such a mess. Like, we had the Aphelios era, we had the Varus era, now we're on like the Ashe versus Senna. It feels like just about every game, because Caitlyn and Kalista are banned, admittedly. Like, which meta do you actually prefer? Do you miss 2019 and Xayah, Kai'Sa and like fighting bot lane constantly and playing these AD carries who have like I guess a lot more tools for self-protection? Or do you like playing things like the Ashe, where you're a little bit more team dependent, but on the inverse side, you do also get to initiate the plays on your own? Like, what's your actual preference for bot lane meta as a bot laner? Because you've been in and out and you've seen kind of both extremes, the very utility-focused bot lanes with the Senna Ashe and the very carry-focused bot lane with the Xayah Kaisas.
I mean, for sure, I would much rather prefer playing last year meta. Like, that's not even like a question. Or I would prefer playing the meta where there's every tank in the game and you're just playing Tristana or Jinx or Varus and you're just one-shotting everyone. Like, I would love to play that meta as well, as an AD carry. But you just have to learn to love what you do. Because if I didn't learn to love this meta, I would just be a burden to my team instead of a guy who can actually carry games. So that's basically my mindset, is just like learn to love the champions that I've played right now and be really, really good at them so that I can offer the most I can to my team. Otherwise, yeah, as I mentioned, I might just like be a burden and better team always wins. I'm just an AD carry. What can I do? I don't really want to have that mindset. So I just want to take the agency and take my responsibility for playing this role and do the most I can. That's why if a team doesn't ban Kate, Kalista, or Ashe against me this week, I will for sure carry against them. and then they will ban it the next game, and then hopefully my top side carries, and then I will bring out something cheesy. And so we have like a decent plan, I think.
As like the full transition has taken over, where you're now from mid to AD carry to mid, now back to AD carry, do you ever like miss mid lane? Do you miss the fact that like you don't have as much agency or control, or do you feel that you've now figured out from the AD carry position that you can bring kind of like that mid lane, like this game's in my control, I can hard carry this game, I could be the difference maker, to the ADC role? Or do you think that it's still just like skewed towards mid lane?
I do, yeah. I miss mid lane. I think it's just a complete verse role to AD carry, and it's like to play the carry, you have to just be like really demanding and really vining. But from mid lane, it's easier to control the game and to kind of have overview of the whole game. When I'm playing bot lane, I'm much more focused on what me and my support should be doing together, because it's like I can't even autopilot my lane, because if you like up once, and or up once, we can get like really. So I think like bot lane is pretty hard to play. It's not easy at all. I think it's you have to be really smart player to play bot lane well together, and so that's the part I enjoy about bot lane. It's a lot about like, it's actually for me it's like harder role than mid, but it's also kind of biased because I played mid for like 10 years of my life. So it's obviously that I can like autopilot mid lane and do well. So I guess that maybe makes sense as well. But like bot lane is still fine. Like, it's not that bad. So it's not horrible at all. Yeah, I think. Yeah.
I was just about to ask, like, how rewarding is it when you and Mickey just absolutely blast someone, or like you just feel that synergy? Is that just like, does it get really hypey, or are you guys just like, yeah, standard day in the office, we can deny this guy, we could screw him up, all his waves, like?
I mean, it was probably better last year because we were killing opponents so much, but in this meta, like, nobody really kills anyone 2v2, so that's kind of boring, I think. Like, the only 2v2 we got, I think, like, this whole playoffs we got to see was basically Hilly and Heracles killing Vander and the other guy, just Vander, and us killing Kaiser, I think, like with Senna Brown, and that was like pretty cringe, the fact that he died at the Senna Brown lane. That's like, I mean, if you kill someone in this meta, that's just really cringe. Like, it's not even you being like really good or something. So yeah.
Oh, that makes me sad.
That's like the sad part.
But it's also so funny because now anytime anyone dies 2v2 in lane, I'll be like, and remember what Lucas said, if you die 2v2 in lane, that's cringe. Because it's true. Because like, actually, how do you kill anyone with Senna Ashe? It's not going to happen.
Apparently, you take your hands off the keyboard and you walk in as a Gangplank into Scion Q.
That also happened. And speaking of the high quality plays like that, your opponent this week is Rogue, right? And I think a lot of people are probably rooting for you to face Fnatic again in the finals. But to me, Rogue looked a lot stronger versus Mad Lions. That was a very one-sided series. Like, what are your thoughts on Rogue right now? Do you give them a little bit more credit? Are you more scared of them now that they've taken down Mad Lions? What do you think about the team overall?
They really do look scary. Like, that's the scariest part, actually. Like, I don't know. They look pretty good. I think Rogue has like changed their playstyle up, and I think it's going to be interesting to see how we will play against it, because I think the playstyle is similar to Fnatic's now, and I do think that we should beat them anyways. I still think we are like really good right now, even though we lost. I think it was kind of a fluke. I do believe on a different day we 3-1 this series, and everyone is like, haha, G2 versus Fnatic. They barely took one game in the whole year. Ah, ha, 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 ha. So we just have to like stay confident in ourselves and believe that we can still take the whole thing. And I think that we can. And I don't really see why Rogue should stop us. And even though they're playing good, we're just really confident in each other. So I believe that my team will do really well, and I think that I will do well. So yeah.
I mean, obviously, when we look at the historic record, Rogue have never beaten G2 or taken a single game from you guys. And Grabs always likes to bring that one up. But I'm always just like kind of curious, because people will always talk about, you know, like play style matchup or anything like that. But at that point, when you're like 0-10 versus a team, does it sometimes just come down to Wonder sitting in lane and he's looking across at Finn and he's just like, I know I can beat this guy on any side of matchup? Or you're looking at Vander and Hansot, like, I don't know. I always feel like it's just like the player difference, like Larson versus Caps. Well, your best player is against probably the best player that Europe has ever created, so good luck. And while the playstyle may have changed, I just always fear for Rogue, and I feel like G2 just have that edge on them.
Yeah, I don't know. Perkz, are you feeling that? Because Frost sounds like he's very confident, but you are like, hey, Rogue do look scary. Rogue, like, are you guys coming into this one respectful, or do you feel like when you look at the historic record that it's just like so easy to like brush Rogue aside?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really care about historic record because we went like 7-0 against Fnatic this year, and we still lost to them. And at some point, you kind of just have to like be like respectful, because if you get too cocky like against Rogue, then we might just lose. But I do agree with you. Like, I can't see really a universe in which Finn wins against Wunder. So that should be like already like already a good quote if we do, you know. But yeah, I also think Hans and Wunder play worse on stage than do scrims. And even though I do have actually a lot of respect for Hansama as an AD carry, I think he is kind of similar to me in a way that he plays. So, but I think that, yeah, as I mentioned, he does play worse in real games, and that's where I play better, I think. So it's gonna be fun matchup, I think. So, but I don't really have like too much to say, I guess, because I haven't really screamed them in their new, like when they beat, we played like only like few games, 3 games or something. So it's like it's hard for me to say really what to expect from them, and they don't really know what to expect from us for next week either right now that we lost. So it's gonna be kind of a burger flip, but yeah, we'll see.
When you guys are doing preparation for teams like Rogue, do you personally go out of your way to really study the team, or is it more about just studying what you guys have been working on in scrims for G2? Like, is it about like G2, we know that we want to play these drafts, we think that we'll play these champions and that this is how we'll execute it? Or is it like Rogue play this way and I know that we can attack them here, we're going to try to outmaneuver? Like, is it more focus on yourself or focus on your enemy?
I think we do both, and it's like we kind of like just look at their tendencies and what they like to do, and then we are more mindful of like how to play. I mean, it's also like when you play against a team for a very long time, you already know how to play. Like, let's say against Fnatic, we kind of like we don't even need prep anymore because we just like both teams just know each other very well. Granted, they did change their playstyle a little bit this right now compared to their previous playstyles. They always used to be like a really early game heavy team that wants to fight. Now they just wait for this spike and ring the bell, and then self-mid comes and starts carrying with 2 levels advantage. So they're like a little bit different now, but still similar in mid game. And where I think Rogue should just basically like kind of like you mentioned, we should be just better team than them and better individuals. Fnatic just has a lot of experience, so they always have like a good they're always fast on the map to respond to our plays. And when we choke or make the wrong decisions, let's say, not choke, because that's like whatever word, then they will contest us and even beat us, as you can see. That happened, yeah.
It did. So, Luca, do you think that it was good for you guys to lose a best of 5 before going to Worlds? Because it sounds like you guys coming into this series were very set on believing that Jankos supporting all the laners was the right way to play, the sets, the Sejuanis, the whatever, and it now sounds like after losing to Fnatic that you're much more open-minded about the LPL meta. Maybe not so far as to Nidalee Renekton, I don't know what you're scrimming, but at least enough to kind of respect the Hekarims and the Lilias of the world. So was this an important loss, do you think, for you guys to take domestically?
I think, yeah, I think it was a really important loss. Like, if anything, like losing in upper bracket really doesn't matter. And if we have to like lose again just to get told something else before Worlds, I would rather take those than losing in first BO5 at Worlds where Kanavi just picks carry junglers and just farms for late game, and we just like get outscaled. Yeah, so I think it was kind of like a good learning curve for us right now.
As a sort of final topic, just to kind of quick hit here, Worlds is coming up. Obviously, we know all 4 teams that are qualified. You guys, Fnatic, Mad Lions, and Rogue. I'm curious, right now, based on what we've seen in playoffs, how do you feel about the overall level of LEC heading into Worlds? Is it better or worse than last year? Should we be scared about the LCK2, or is it just the LPL that we need to be afraid of? Like, what are your initial thoughts on expectations for Europe at Worlds?
My initial thoughts after watching like all regions, I think actually LPL is kind of overrated right now. I think, well, I don't know if I can say that because they beat us last 2 years to 3-0, but looking at the games, how they play, I think they are not that scary as people make them out to be. And if anything, I think the only thing that's really scary right now is Damwon. I mean, if you just look at their winner as well, that's just really insane. But then again, their bottom is kind of whatever, so it should be like fine against them as well. I feel like every team has a flaw, and LPL, the only thing they have scary is basically they have like Jekyll, Karsa, and Knight. These players always perform well, but Knight has never been to Worlds, so he might as well be like the biggest choker ever. We didn't really know.
I'm kind of praying.
We don't actually know that. So and like already like on top of that, I don't actually think Knight is like that insane. Like from watching him, after watching him play, he's pretty good. But it's like I don't know why would anyone like put him on pedestal over like Caps, let's say. But then EU teams, I mean, I feel like every team right now is like kind of like every team in the world right now is kind of meh. I feel like people are still like trying to figure out their priorities and shit. And there is a lot of like Jhin in LPL, which I don't think is that great, but maybe I'll play him as well. So we will see how it develops over courses of next 2 patches. Well, I guess 10.17 is already live, so one more patch. I think that EU can be actually, I will not say the strongest region, but it can be like top 2, easily. We'll just have to see how everyone else plays. Like it's really hard to say honestly, because also this world is just really int the way that. It's, I mean, of course, because of COVID, right? So it's just really in that people will go to quarantine, and then Chinese teams will play from home because they just have this privilege, instead of everyone else going to some other country and everyone being quarantined at the same time. That doesn't make any sense to me, but you know what? It's fine. And then we will see how teams perform on stage after quarantine, which this is like a lot of mental factors coming into this right now. And that's where EU players might have like the upper hand, I guess.
Do you think that over the quarantine and lockdown scenario, like obviously in Germany, we're moving at a lot more freedom than some of the other areas in the world, but there was like a conversation that I had with Yamato where Shanghai and Wuhan and China first went into lockdown, and we were just like, wow, this is actually just going to make the LPL better because they're just going to sit inside now because they have nowhere that they can go, and they're just going to grind solo queue. Do you think that over COVID that people got better at playing because we were inside more, playing more games, grinding more solo queue? Or do you think the burnout factor of being like locked down and the stress like made people play worse?
Oof, that's a hard question actually, because you would have to like actually like go and look at the amount of mistakes people make this year compared to last year. So that's like a really hard thing to say. But I do think that the mental factor might come really into play in Worlds. Like I think as of like regular season and whatever, it's whatever, honestly, I guess. But when you go into Worlds, this is where the quarantine and not going out and shit might hit you. Like I've been in quarantine myself, and so I kind of know more of how to prepare for it. And like I'm actually mentally ready to go to China. I'm actually excited, if anything, to get like 2 weeks of peace from my teammates. I hope they don't see this, so they don't know this. But I'm kind of tired of them right now. So I'll be looking forward to ordering some nice foods to my room and enjoying. But it still is a bit like annoying, the fact that you can't like literally go outside for a walk. Like for example, which is something I enjoy doing, and probably some other people do as well. You know, it's kind of like a human thing to do. But yeah,
I hope they're getting you guys a really nice gym in whatever hotel it is.
Nice gym, in your room, whatever I hope you're
rooftop
set up.
balcony.
I hope you're set up. World's team, if you're watching this is, or G2, who's ever responsible for this, like these boys need to be set up. Perkz' room needs to just be an entire floor of the hotel, so he can he can get his walks in. He can have a different room for every activity.
I wanted to upgrade to like a suite. Yeah, it's called suite. Yeah, it's not a suite, obviously, to a suite. And then I checked the price, and it was like 3,500 euros per month per day. And I'm like, I guess I'm not upgrading, you know.
You turn to Carlos, you're like, listen, the prize pool is this. How much do you want it? This is just a fraction.
We'll build on what we learned last time. In order to win, Jankos has to play Sejuani, and Perkz needs a $3,500 a night room upgrade. These are the conditions. If we hit both of them, G2 will win Worlds. All right, Luka. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us, man. Good luck in the series versus Rogue, and if you win the series versus Fnatic in the finals as well. Thanks again for all the insight, and good luck in scrims this week and in diversifying the style. I hope we get to see your cheese picks on stage personally, because I'm tired of this bot lane meta, but I'm glad that you can look at it in a positive light.
Please play Yasuo, Gragas. I miss it so much.
Okay, let's not leak anything here.
Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you, Luka. We'll see you later. So that was a really nice interview from Luka. It was very level-headed, and there's a lot of things that I think he said there that made me happy.
I think what was really interesting to me is like in alignment of recognizing maybe I'm just really biased, but I'm like, G2 should have won that series. Like, I'm happy that Fnatic did. And me saying that, people would be like, oh, Frosk G2 bias, you know, Fnatic played well. Like, Fnatic did play well, but I'm appreciative that there was level-headedness, but then also the recognition of, like, strength. Because I think having that confidence, ego, whatever you want to call it, is, like, so important, especially for the absolute gauntlet that is ahead of that team, not just in semis to hopefully for them and potentially finals, but then also into Worlds.
Yeah, and I think the thing that I liked on like an individual level was Perkz being like kind of talking about how in the course of that series he learned to like really love like the Ashe performance, and he said, hey, this is the first time I really got to pop off on Ashe. I wasn't showing up in scrims anymore. But then when we pushed him, we asked about Zag Kaisman, he's like, oh no, don't get me wrong, like that's what I want to be playing. But he took personal accountability. He said, if I don't make myself be excited about playing these champions, I'm going to perform worse, or I'm going to make it my team's problem, which I think is a level of maturity that like I could not aspire to. Because let me tell you, when we play League of Legends, like if you tell me I have to play friggin' Karma bot lane, I'm like, we're not playing League of Legends today. Like if they ban Bard, Yasuo, and what else did I play? I played
Yone.
Yone. I'm like, I'm out. I'll just quit. I'll just go next. Like I want, those are the champions I want to play right now. Screw anything else. Like I'm not interested. So I can respect someone who, you know, can put their personal, or maybe not put their personal feelings aside, but like find a way to enjoy something even if it isn't as fun or as flashy or as personally gratifying. And
I think what is also kind of interesting, we didn't really get a chance to discuss it as in depth, but this idea of the, not mental fortitude's too strong of a word, but you have to think about like how you punish people in this meta as a bot laner, because as he said, no one's dying 2v2 in the bot lane right now. It's mostly just about wave manipulation, getting good resets, playing for tempo, and then teaming up your support in your jungle. And so that requires a very different skill set of just patience of being like, okay, don't mess up the wave. Make sure we get the right bounce. Can we freeze right here? This is when we're taking our correct back timer, versus thinking like, we can set up a kill. This is our trade pattern and rotation. Go. You know what I mean? Like, it's so much more fun as a player to feel like you're hunting or you're really abusing people for killing them rather than manipulating your wave to deny them and get better resets to like swap fat. You know what I mean? Like, these are very different things.
It depends. Like, some people like it, right? Because the wave thing is
I love
like,
it.
I know you do, but you're like the chess player of League of Legends, where I like the G2 boys in 2019. They were all MMA fighters, right? And like, when you take an MMA fighter and you're like, okay, now you're gonna sit still for a long time, and you're going to think for a long time about your moves. You're going to move one piece at a time instead of literally punching another human being in the face. It's a very different level of excitement.
It's actually a really good boxing. What was that big boxing match? McGregor versus...
Oh, the meme one? McGregor versus who? I forgot the other guy.
The actual boxer. Sorry, we're not...
Yeah.
Everyone's like raging in comments right now. No, but it was so interesting, this idea of...
McGregor.
Yes, Mayweather and his intelligence about pacing out the fight and just using basically his endurance and like wearing them down. It's kind of like those different mentalities of McGregor was throwing his body at everything. That's like I'm going to kill you. I'm going to really punish you. And then you have another boxer, and obviously it was a boxing fight. It was unfair. Who's just like, I'll let this guy wear himself out, and then I'll go in for the strike. And that's the wave manipulation idea. That's like, I'm going to play the mental warfare game with you. You know that I'm going to deny you right now, and I just have to watch you be frustrated with it. And you'll either crack or you'll play it perfectly. And like, if that's illegal, I'm pulling you over. Like,
man. Just as a side note, both those dudes made insane amounts of money. So the only real people who suffered is anyone who expected
it was a total PR
fight.
stunt. Like,
oh my god. Ugh. Obviously, not talking trash on either of those guys because they could literally kill me with a single punch. But big money making scheme. Congrats on them to all their money. But yeah, anyone who expected a different result in the fight is trolling. Anyway, so on the other opposite side of that, the final question that I think remains for us now then is predicting what's ahead of us and what we actually expect for this G2 lineup, because I think one of the most positive things that I've heard for G2's level at Worlds is also one of the worst things I've heard for their performance domestically, which is Perkz being like, yeah, it might be good for us to lose another series, you know? We have a lot, like, if we can learn another lesson here domestically, I'm like, that's a great mentality for winning Worlds. That is a bad mentality for winning LEC.
I mean, yeah, obviously, because then it would put you out, but I think it does show that G2's goalposts are very different than any other team's goalposts, which is Europe is a stepping stone for world domination.
Yep.
And it feels really good as an LEC fan to actually have confidence there. Like, I don't know if I 100% am aligned with Perkz that like the LPL is overrated, but I can see why he would say that. But, you know, it's nice to feel, we've heard it from Larson, we've now heard it from Perkz, that they feel confident in Europe's ability. And also, like, even if you disagree with that, you can see where the argument can be made. And that is a really exciting timeline to be on, because it wasn't too long ago where if you said something like that, people would laugh you out.
Yeah. And to be fair, like, coming into even last year's Worlds, like, we didn't really believe much in Splice at all. And they managed to make it out of groups. We actually initially believed a lot in Fnatic because they went to full 5 games. And then after week 1, it was kind of a mess, but they did bring it back. And so there's a lot of, the track record just keeps getting better and better. And being able to have more and more faith before we've played a game is a really good feeling. Now, of course, it's dangerous because we could all be in a situation 2 months from now where I'm like, oh my God, we're NA, we're doing 0-10 in week 2. How did this happen? And we could be like crying our eyes out. This will be the saddest podcast of all time. Maybe we'll get an alcohol sponsorship for one episode so I can drink myself silly after a performance like that. Who knows? But hopefully this optimism is a good thing.
There was a really good conversation. I really want to credit the right person who brought it up. I think it was Veteran who brought it up on some of his content pieces, but this idea that beating SKT in a best of 5 was more important than anything else that Europe has ever accomplished because it proved that you could. And the thing is that when EDG beat SKT in a best of 5 in 2015 for MSI title, all of those players went back. There's so many interviews of players on different teams, not just EDG, people coming out of retirement. Zatai came out of retirement to play again, basically saying, like, when I saw that EDG could do it, I knew it was possible, and that gave me the fire. And it's something that is really hard to track in sport, just because we don't necessarily get most people don't really talk about it, but it is something that is very cool. Again, this like rewriting history, the acts that missed Alexander, if we hadn't beat them, does X player seeing that, watching it 10 years later, then decide to become a League of Legends, that timeline.
And I think it's also very important because we did exist in a timeline for a long time. People remember the Sven Mithy era of G2. I remember it was either a fellow teammate or Mithy himself kind of talking about the idea that like Korea felt unbeatable. And so you did not really, like, maybe you believed in the team, but you treated yourself as the underdog anytime you played a Korean team. Like, you felt like you were playing from behind. And that mentality, while justifiable, is really not good if you're looking to find wins. And it's a hard one to break out of, especially when at that point, historically, like, we didn't beat Korean teams. That was it. Nobody beat Korean teams, except for that one, obviously, MSI final with EDG, which people were so ready to write off as a fluke because no one had done it before, that it like didn't really cement anything, at least for us, for the LEC or the EULCS at the time domestically. So it is a big deal, and it does change a lot. That said, right now, I think we're both probably in the predicting G2 to beat Rogue column. Sure, and that feels like a pretty easy prediction, and most people are going to side with us on that one.
I do really want to give credit to Rogue, though, for changing up their style. The interesting thing about it, though, is it feels like their Mad Lions and Rogue both have issues where they're being hamstrung by champion pools, I feel, or I'll call it effective champion pools, because anyone can play anything, but it's like, how well do you play that thing? Whereas the Evelyn coming in, I think, was a big boost for Inspired. We already knew that he could play a carry style because we've seen it from his Olaf performances, and then pulling out the Eve. I also want to give credit to Finn for, moving on to different champions. I was really concerned about his champion pool. It was basically like, how are they going to protect Finn versus how is Mad Lions going to protect Shadow? And then individual performers. And it felt like the best way to beat Rogue was that their strategy was about swapping on you as quickly as possible, using push priority to make sure that they never really fought you, that it was more about you fighting minions, and then to sweep away from you, wait till Larson was ready to team fight, and then they had great team fighting, and that's how Rogue beat you. By them changing this style, I think is good news, because now they can kind of rely on a snowball to, I personally think, compensate for individual pound-for-pound talent mismatches. I'm never going to say that Finn is going to beat Wonder or Bwipo in a 1v1. I mean, obviously, it could happen, but I would always err that it's going to be Wonder and Bwipo that can do it. But, if you have like a ridiculously fed Evelyn running around, then that doesn't really matter because you're just slapping people with your wallets. But outside that, my only concern is that for Rogue to overcome G2 and for Rogue to overcome Fnatic if they did want to take the LEC title, and then for Rogue moving on to Worlds, it's just that their individual pieces, I don't think are ready right now to measure up to the best of the best global talent. Like, they definitely measure up in the LEC, and they definitely have strategies and champions that they can find the edge. But that's just like my flag. I'm confident that Rogue will get out of groups. I think they're probably I don't know why people wouldn't be confident. They're so consistent.
Yeah, very consistent.
And like, my issue would be in a best of 5, but I do think it will be a growing pain for Rogue as they try to navigate increasing their individual ceiling, so that when they go up against a Zoom or a 369 or a I don't know, showmaker, that they can stand toe-to-toe and not just get blasted in lane phase. Because it used to be that if you held Rogue down in lanes, you would just beat them individually and they would slowly bleed out.
Yeah, I have to see if that continues forward. So assuming that G2 make it, here's the thing. I think if there was ever a time for Fnatic to win, now is the time. Now, I literally said those exact words in the spring, and I was wrong. And this is the problem, folks. It's really hard to predict G2 Fnatic games. But that said, until Fnatic beat G2 and eliminate G2, I will continue to root for G2.
It's the double tap.
I have to vote for G2 again. I voted for G2 previously. I was wrong, and yet still, I believe that G2 will take that best of 5. Now, that said, I think this is the strongest version of Fnatic. I think Fnatic are a team that, like, when they're getting along together and they're winning, they're always going to perform better. So, like, it is definitely possible. But when we look back at that series, there's just a few. It was not a dominant series from Fnatic. It was a good series. Fnatic played a good series, and they were the better team, I believe, on the day. But G2 also threw a game. There's also like that random-ass Kassadin in Game 4 that clearly wasn't working. And so it's like, to me, if it was a 3-0 absolute blowout stomp, it would be pretty easy for me to be like, I don't think G2 have enough to recover from that. But because it was a 5-game series that was a bit sloppy at a few different points from both sides, I can't take that as like the clear indicator that Fnatic is the superior team. So until then, like, history rules out for me, and I think that that's G2 are going to come back with a vengeance.
I agree with all of that. I also have very painful hiccups, so sorry about that. And talking about Fnatic and kind of like good things for Fnatic, when we were talking about like the different mentalities of how you play this type of bot lane, it's funny because I feel like this is the best bot lane for like Reckless. Like, obviously he can play and like carry, kill you bot lane, but like Reckless' ability to play weak side wave manipulation, I've always just been so amazingly impressed by, and I'm just like, wow, like Reckless can really punish you in this type of meta. But possibly the worst one for Hilly. Hilly is good at wave cutting, and like he often thinks about how to disrupt your back timers, the joke that he'll chase you all the way to the Nexus. Like, it's not like he's not prepared for that, but he also really wants to burn flashes, have aggressive trades, and then use his damage advantage, health advantage, trade advantage to deny you whatever you want, and you don't really get to do that in that meta.
Yeah, it's a little bit rough. We're going to see what's going to happen. But now, folks, that's going to do it for Euphoria proper. Of course, Saturday, Sunday this week, if you guys want to check it out, it is the playoffs, the semifinals between Rogue and G2. The winner of that will play Fnatic in the finals on Sunday. But now is our newest segment. And this is a segment born out of some people asking for it and also us just deciding to do it. For now, it is named Chill Corner.
Chill
because
Corner.
I came up with it when I was sleep deprived this morning. This is 10 minutes of completely unrelated to League of Legends content. Maybe semi-related, because there are going to be some things that overlap that we're going to talk about. But this is, if you want more Froskurinn and Drakos, this is the 10 minutes for you, where we're going to hit it up. And we're going to talk about absolutely random stuff. I've got ideas, but do you want to go first?
So I've got two things that have happened in my life that I really want to talk about. The first one is League of Legends rated, and it's that game that we played. Oh my God. Drakos, Ender, and I have just been absolute animals right now in flex queue.
Yes.
And we played a half.
Mind you, some low-ass ELO flex queue, because these accounts have never played flex before, and we were not placed favorably. So this is we are in the monkey town of ELO. This is like absolute Animal Zoo style chaos.
This is true LCS for fun gameplay. Let me tell you about this. I've played probably tens of thousands of games of League of Legends. I was talking to Ender about this. Like, I've played since, I remember when Kassadin was released as a champion. I've played since Nidalee was in the game. And I've never in my life experienced a game like that. We held a base defense. I'm talking like Loveling versus OMG versus Fnatic. That SOAS base defense where it's a single hit. We held off 4 of those. 4 different attempts. They just started throwing their bodies at us. Sion sold all of his items. He went like full BF sword. He was just training his way down the mid lane. They were like, they're like, we just gotta hit the Nexus. They gave up. The desperation suck and they couldn't fight us anymore. We're like clawing back. We're getting Elder Dragons. We're splitting up with that was wild.
It was also hands down like the greatest moment of coordination where like all of your flame for our absolutely bananas useless Ahri in the mid lane like floated away. So for context, we're like, we started off really good. We may have hilariously fed a Jhin, and then the enemy team BM'd in our base instead of hitting our Nexus. We aced them, and then for the next like 30 minutes we hold on against a team who has soul. We steal 2 elders from them back to back.
2 Barons?
And you know these games, right? Like most of us, if you're a real grinder, maybe you get one of these games like once a week. But if you're like, you're a little bit more humble, you're a little bit older, and you don't get as much time to play games, you get maybe one of these a month, one of these every 3 months, one of these a year. And this was our one a year, because this was the biggest. Like, we were literally microing, like, okay, we have to kill Orianna first because the Sion does literally no damage because he's full tank, but then the second the Sion comes out of his like passive into his death-defied passive, we have to like immediately CC him. So that was. Did you guys end up casting over it on your stream?
No, not yet.
But there's a replay, and at some point we'll release the replay.
We will that one will go down in the history books. That is the biggest fiesta I have ever. And that's the game where you win. I hope to God that that Jhin who lost the game, I hope to God he's still mad when he went to bed. That he's still salty about it.
He probably should be, because that Sion could have literally built a Sheen and ended the game. But he went from full tank to full AD, and he only needed a little bit more damage. And if he had just built the Sheen, he would have been fine. But he went full AD, and as he was running down mid lane, he got one tapped because he was full AD Sion. Oh, yeah. Oh, God. All right, so if you want more information on that, is it that European fangirl that you're streaming on these days?
No, I'm Frosk.
I'm Frosk, twitch.tv/I'mFrosk. You can check out her Twitch. If you want to see that replay, we'll link to the VOD at some point when it comes out, whenever it gets reviewed. Other than that, the other thing I want to talk about is I guess it is league related. So the Chill Corner is just non-LEC league related things. The BAPE sponsorship with the True Damage Yasuo skin. How do you feel It's like, because I'm like into fashion, but I feel like you're a level above me. Like I might be like silver, but you're like gold plat, maybe diamond. It depends. Like a lot of people here are gonna look at you as a diamond player for the streetwear fashion. So how do you feel about these like skin collab things?
So I got to go to the Louis Vuitton Fashion Week with Law Yamato, David Higdon, who's head of like all comms for League of Legends, and Nas, and amazing experience. But when sitting down, and I'm gonna, it probably doesn't work like this, but I'm gonna take full credit here. In a conversation with David, and Yamato was there, he could totally back me up that this absolutely happened. David was talking to us and just like asking back and forth. And what's interesting, my perspective is that since I was in China, I already, like as soon as I saw the Louis Vuitton thing coming down, I was like, that is genius. They're going to make so much money in China. High-end luxury brands are like, that is the fashion in China. Like China streetwear is like intense, and mixing in that stuff, amazing. And the LPL teams have already trained the Chinese audience to have designer clothing associated with League of Legends. Like all of the teams, especially EDG, have like designer clothing that launches that will have like Clear Love's giant face. I'll wear one of the shirts next time on Euphoria. I own one.
Oh my God.
And it sells out instantly. And so this was perfect for them. This capsule, I'm like, that's amazing. And then he starts asking me, he's like, what other brands? I was like, you have to get Bape. Bape is massive in China. Everyone wears Bape. And if that's like the like, sorry, Western guys, this is not for you. This is the middle class of China is booming right now.
Fun fact. China, very important for League of Legends. You want new champions? China
also,
better be excited.
Ridiculously important for brands like Louis Vuitton. I was reading a study about it. I will get the numbers wrong, but when the Louis Vuitton thing came out, I went back and was studying into it. It was like something like 60% to 70% of their sales were coming from the new booming middle-class Chinese market. So like it was just a match made in heaven. Streetwear, hype brands, Bape, that is, I'm just going to say, I gave them the idea. I probably didn't, but I definitely also recognized that it was a good idea while it was simultaneously.
If there's one thing we've learned as shoutcasters is if you as a public face of the company
say
take
it
credit
first
for anything, you get all of the credit. That's what we've learned. Everyone else, like we could do literally nothing. We could show up and say one line in front of like a beautifully choreographed video and they'd be like, wow, Frosk and Drakos really crushed that. And we'd be like, yes, thank you.
Well done.
Also, what the hell is going on with your headset right now?
I decided to,
If you're in YouTube land, please look at this because this is like, what is happening to
this is
cord?
peak Froskurinn. When I'm actually just playing, when I'm down to clown with you guys and we're just playing whatever,
absolutely.
This is actually how I wear my headset. It's only when I'm in professional mode and I go
goes
into
over your shoulder.
Yeah, that it like goes over and then I use like a different voice. If I'm actually just having fun and talking about things that I want to talk about, the cord goes on the hat.
All right, cord on the hat. It's a look. I'll give you that. That's the fashion. I don't know. I'm more excited about the fashion collection. I could care less about the skin in game. Like it's cool, obviously, and a lot of people who are like into Yasuo mains are going to be all about it because that's a big flex, and I respect it. You know what I mean? But like for me, it's all about the clothing line because I liked a lot of the Kiana pieces actually. Like even as like a dude who the line wasn't designed for, I would have worn a lot of that stuff. But I am excited for the Bape stuff, which feels a bit more unisex. Literally know nothing about this collection for context, even though I work at Riot. Like I know nothing about this. I had no idea this was coming. I've only seen the PvE skin teasers and now the actual announcement.
It's kind of like the last frontier that we really need to conquer since we've conquered like gaming and music is like fashion. And I'm going to be real honest to our merch team. Sorry, guys. We've not conquered that one yet. We're getting closer. Like the LEC merch, when I don't know if people have ordered it. It's a very lightweight sweatshirt. And when I first put it on, I was like, I prefer personally like heavier weight things. So it wasn't like my bag. I think the design and colors are, especially because it's like nondescript, is nice for me because I hate when I wear,
subtly nerdy.
Oh my God.
Subtly
Who wants to just wear a poster on their tits?
Look if you want those kind of t-shirts, Hot Topic has the market cornered. You can get a Day to Remember t-shirt at the same time you get your Legend of Zelda t-shirt. And if that's what you're into, dude, shout out to you. Wear your nerdiness proudly. Like, I'm not going to shame that. But for me, I love the subtlety. We're going to make a brand, and no one can steal this from us. I got this idea from Derek Asiadu, is how you pronounce it, who's now a TFT streamer, but formerly worked at Riot. And we're going to call it the secret handshake. And it's just all the nerdiest clothing possible. But like it's not clearly nerdy at all, and it's like, oh, you see a symbol like from Mass Effect or something, but there's nothing else on it that says Mass Effect. So everyone's like,
everyone's
cool
like,
symbol.
yes.
But all the people who actually know are like, hey, you're a giant dork, and you're like, what's up? Boom, boom, secret handshake.
Says the dude with Bloodborne tattoos on his finger.
Exactly, but that's my point. I like the symbols.
It's the physical manifestation of the secret handshake.
Yes, thank you. Oh, man. Wonderful. What else? Yeah, so I'm hoping that this is a cool line. As always, streetwear is very expensive, and like, don't get me wrong, we do well as shoutcasters, but I'm not like super down. That said, I will try to get one piece. Like, I'm gonna be in that queue, and I swear to God, I will brag about it if I get it to get that piece, because I'm right there in the trenches with you, streetwear fanatics, sneakerheads lining up, botting every single raffle. Actually, screw you if you bought anything. It's so annoying. But
I don't understand how. Okay, Yamato gets every single drop ever for Yeezy, and I don't.
Weird size feet. It has to be.
It has to be.
It has to be weird
We
size
literally
feet.
went into. Oh, and here's another pro tip for all you sneakerheads. Paris, massive Nike town. Trying to get any Jordan drop in Paris, like good luck. But Yeezy drops, they don't touch
care.
that Adidas stuff.
Yeah.
You can walk into a Foot Locker and there's Yeezys 350s as far as the wall can see. I'm like, what is happening here? I'm literally gonna just. If we weren't in COVID times, at this point, I would actually just fly to Paris
and get some kicks for
because
Worlds.
it'd be cheaper than trying to buy resale.
Damn.
Anyway.
All right, that's going to do it for us for the Chill Corner. Let us know how you feel about the segment. We like talking about things that aren't related to League of Legends. But if you guys are like, this isn't a Euphoria experience, we can do this on a different stream, at a different time, on a different platform, and save it for all the people who do love it, who want to hear about this. So, yeah, talked about Bape collab a little bit, talked about our crazy solo queue experience. Let us know about your crazy solo queue experiences. Send us your replays. Why not? I love watching League of Legends that is crazy and fun. I don't really care what level it is as long as it's absolutely bananas. That's my preference. Anyway, once again, Saturday, G2 versus Rogue. Sunday, Winner versus Fnatic. Ooh, it's going to be crazy. There's an opening ceremony. Me, Frosk, and Vedius are casting the finals. I'm going to announce that this comes out on Thursday. We're the trio casting the finals, so get ready for a little mom, dad, and
son,
estranged brother, uncle who isn't actually your uncle but uses uncle.
Dog.
You can decide. What is the Vedius relationship in this one? Let us know. We're going to figure it out. Anyway, this has been Euphoria, the finals episode. We stop numbering them once playoffs start, so I don't know what the number is, but that's going to do it. This is the episode. We'll see you later.